What if the freedoms you take for granted, the courts that limit power, the laws that restrain rulers, the idea that no one should hold absolute authority can be traced back to a quiet man writing in 18th century France? No armies followed him, no revolutions bore his name, yet his ideas crossed oceans, shaped constitutions, and still determine how power works today. This is the story of Montesquieu, the thinker who taught the modern world how to fear power without destroying it. Charles-Louis de Secondat, Baron de la Brede et de Montesquieu, was born on January 18, 1689, near Bordeaux, France. His birth coincided almost exactly with a turning point in European history, the Glorious Revolution in England, which limited royal power and strengthened parliamentary rule. Though continents and politics separated these events, they would eventually converge in Montesquieu's thinking. Montesquieu was born into a noble family, but not one obsessed with courtly ambition. His upbringing blended privilege with restraint. His mother died when he was young, and his father ensured he received a classical education grounded in law, history, and philosophy. From early on, Montesquieu developed a fascination with how societies functioned, why some prospered while others collapsed, and why laws differed so dramatically from one nation to another. He studied law at the University of Bordeaux and later in Paris, preparing for a career that would place him inside the legal machinery of the French state. In 1716, Montesquieu inherited the title of Baron and a position as president of the Bordeaux Parliament, a regional high court. This role gave him first-hand experience with legal systems, governance, and the tensions between local authority and absolute monarchy. But Montesquieu was not content to merely administer the law. He wanted to understand it. His first major literary success came in 1721 with Persian Letters, a satirical novel presented as a series of fictional letters written by Persian travelers observing French society. Through this clever device, Montesquieu critiqued politics, religion, gender roles, and social customs. The book was humorous, sharp, and subversive. By placing foreign eyes on familiar institutions, Montesquieu exposed how arbitrary and irrational many accepted norms truly were. Persian Letters made him famous and dangerous. In an era of censorship and royal sensitivity, satire was a risky art. Montesquieu avoided direct confrontation with authorities, instead relying on irony and distance. This strategy would define his career. He challenged power not through revolution, but through analysis. In the years that followed, Montesquieu traveled extensively across Europe. He spent time in Italy, Germany, and most importantly, England. England left a profound impression on him. Unlike France, where power was centralized in the king, England operated under a constitutional monarchy, with a balance between the crown, parliament, and the courts. Montesquieu did not see England as perfect, but he recognized something revolutionary, a political system designed to prevent any single force from becoming dominant. This insight would become the cornerstone of his most influential work. In 1748, after nearly 20 years of research, Montesquieu published The Spirit of the Laws. It was not a manifesto. It was not a call to rebellion. It was something far more dangerous to absolute power, a systematic explanation of how laws emerge, how governments function, and why freedom survives only when power is restrained. At the heart of the spirit of the laws lies Montesquieu's most famous idea, the separation of powers. He argued that liberty could not exist if legislative, executive, and judicial powers were concentrated in a single authority. When one body makes the laws, enforces them, and judges violations, tyranny becomes inevitable. Not because rulers are evil, but because unchecked power always expands. Montesquieu believed that each branch of government must limit the others. Power should be balanced against power. Ambition should restrain ambition. Freedom, he argued, was not the absence of authority, but the presence of limits. This idea was radical. At the time, France was ruled by absolute monarchy. The king's authority was considered divinely sanctioned. To suggest that power needed restraint was to undermine the very foundation of the state. Yet Montesquieu framed his argument not as an attack, but as an observation. He studied governments across history, republics, monarchies, despotisms, and identified patterns. Where power was divided, societies endured. Where it was concentrated, they decayed. Montesquieu also emphasized that laws must reflect the character of a society. Climate, geography, religion, culture, and economics all shaped how laws functioned. There was no universal system that could simply be imposed everywhere. This nuanced approach separated him from more rigid Enlightenment thinkers. He rejected dogma in favor of adaptability. The reaction to the spirit of the laws was immediate and intense. The book was widely read across Europe and beyond, but it was also controversial. The Catholic Church placed it on the index of prohibited books, accusing Montesquieu of undermining religious authority. Absolutist rulers viewed his ideas with suspicion, yet the work spread anyway, influencing thinkers, reformers, and revolutionaries. Nowhere was Montesquieu's impact greater than in the emerging political thought of the American colonies. Leaders like James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Adams studied the spirit of the laws closely. Montesquieu's theory of separated powers became a foundational principle of the United States Constitution. James Madison would later write that the accumulation of all powers in the same hands may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny, a sentiment that echoes Montesquieu almost word for word. Despite his influence, Montesquieu was not a revolutionary. He did not advocate violent overthrow. He believed in gradual reform, guided by reason and experience. His fear was not chaos, but despotism. He understood that freedom is fragile, not because people desire tyranny, but because power naturally seeks expansion. In his personal life, Montesquieu was reserved and private. He suffered from poor sight in his later years, eventually becoming nearly blind. Yet even as his physical vision faded, his intellectual clarity remained sharp. He continued to revise his work, respond to critics, and refine his arguments. Montesquieu died at the age of 66. He did not live to see the American Revolution, the French Revolution, or the modern democratic states his ideas would help shape, but his influence only grew after his death. Ironically, some of the most dramatic revolutions inspired by Enlightenment thought would later struggle with the very problem Montesquieu warned about, the concentration of power. His work serves as both inspiration and caution. Freedom, he argued, is not secured by good intentions alone, but systems designed to restrain human ambition. Today, Montesquieu's name may not be as widely spoken as those of revolutionary leaders, but his ideas are embedded in the structures that govern millions of lives. Every time a court overturns a law, every time a legislature checks an executive, every time power is divided rather than unified, Montesquieu's legacy quietly endures. He reminds us that liberty does not require heroes, it requires architecture. Systems that assume human imperfection, laws that limit even those who mean well. Montesquieu understood that the greatest threat to liberty is not always cruelty, but certainty, the belief that one group alone knows best. In a world still wrestling with power, authority, and liberty, Montesquieu remains startlingly relevant. He teaches us that freedom is not loud, it is balanced, it is cautious, and it survives not by trusting power, but never fully trusting it at all.